Okay, I guess we'll get started. Hey everyone, hopefully all of y'all can hear me. My name is Kai and we're going to do a Daz webinar today, importing and animating Daz Genesis 8 characters in iClone. We're not going to be doing really much animating in this case. I'm going to focus more on making your character look like visually more appealing with the lighting and all that stuff. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute here. But I want you to know that we are recording this webinar, so if you miss anything or if I'm going too fast for you or anything like that, I will be sending out a YouTube link for you at the end of this webinar, so feel free to just browse that on your own time. And as well, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, as always. A brief, hopefully, 10 to 15 minute Q&A session, question and answer section. So if you have any questions, put those in the Q&A. There's a Q&A section in your little Zoom webinar panel there. Put your questions in there and we'll answer those at the end. I'm not going to be really checking the chat window from now on because I'm going to be busy doing the presentation and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A panel, and we'll get to that at the end of this webinar. In addition, we're going to be sending out a survey for you guys. We always want to know your feedback or what you think about all the stuff we're doing here, and if you have any suggestions for future webinars or any advice, any tips, feel free to put those in the survey, and as a reward, we'll give you a 10% discount from the content store. All right, so make sure you fill out that survey and get back to us. And there we go. I think that's all the introduction that I need. I also want to mention as well that coming up on July 22nd, we're going to have a curve editor webinar. The curve editor is, of course, a new feature with iClone 7 that allows you much more detailed animation. That's going to be hosted by Chris Morris, also known as Stuck on 3D, for those of you who are familiar with the iClone or the Reallusion community. He's been a user of iClone for a long time, so make sure you check that out, and you can register for that on our webinar page right here. Okay, I think we're good to go. A little quick, all right. A couple questions there in the chat window, but put your questions from the chat window, put those in the Q&A window, and I'll get to those at the very end of this webinar. Okay, cool. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Daz extension. Now, in case you weren't looking at the chat window, I did answer, I'm not sure the user, but someone's question, I think it was Walter, about the Daz extension. Now, the Daz extension will come now with 3D Exchange Pipeline. If you purchase 3D Exchange Pipeline, it's going to come free with the 3D Exchange Pipeline, the Daz extension. Okay. Before we had it kind of separately available, you could purchase it separate, but we decided that package it in with the 3D Exchange Pipeline would be a lot more useful, because most of the people that are using Daz and iClone simultaneously also have the 3D Exchange Pipeline as well. All right, so first of all, let's take a look at downloading and extracting the Daz extension. So I'm going to go into my account here. Let me just move this panel up a little bit. Okay, and so go to the Reallusion page. Once you've purchased 3D Exchange Pipeline, I'm going to show you how to download it and basically all the stuff that's inside and how you can use it. And that's the first part of this webinar. Okay, so let's go ahead and download it. We've already purchased 3D Exchange Pipeline. So let's go ahead and take a look at our account. Just go to like my account up here, all right, at the very top, and then just enter in all your info here. Whoops. Okay, and once you're in here, once you're into your account backend, there's a little registration section at the top here, and where you can find the Daz extension is down here. You'll find a 3D Exchange 7 pipeline item in your product list here. Just go to the download, just click on download, okay, and it'll bring up a window with a number of different download options. You can download the actual application here. There's character designer resource packages here. Those are a little bit older from 3D Exchange 5. And then down here, there's Daz Genesis extension version 4 for iClone 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and download that. Give that a download, and we'll give it a second here to download. And we'll close this window. And we'll just go ahead and show that in my folder. And I'm going to Control X and just paste this to my desktop just for ease of use here. And I'll just paste this. Sorry if this desktop gives you vertigo. It's a little bit upside down, but this is what you'll get. You'll get this zip file here, this iClone Daz Genesis extension, and just extract that. Okay, we'll just extract it here to our desktop, and it'll give you a folder like this. Okay, so then the Daz Genesis extension folder. I have this, of course, in a separate, more permanent folder, not on my desktop, which I highly recommend for you, unless you want a really messy desktop. I'm not saying that mine's clean anyways, but okay, anyways. So you'll get this in the Daz Genesis extension folder. You'll get the README file, just some basic stuff in there, nothing really too useful. And then you'll have this muscle mapping and puppeteering relation Excel file here. Again, this is not really, if you want to get into really specific detail when you're using the facial puppet tool, this might be useful for you, but we're not going to do that in this webinar. This is a bit more for really super detailed advanced people. So most of you don't need to worry about that. Let's go into the Daz Genesis extension, or Daz Genesis to iClone folder right here. Excuse me, and here you'll have Genesis 3, Genesis 8 files right here. We're not going to worry about Genesis 3 right now, but there is this Excel file that is Daz Genesis avatar face key sequence. So you do want to select this, and I'm going to take a look, give you a brief introduction to this. This also includes, if you're using Daz Genesis 1 or 2 characters, this also includes a section here where you can see the workflow for Genesis 1 and 2. Again, we're not going to go through this because we're focusing on Genesis 8 in this particular webinar. Okay, so you can go through all this stuff on your own time. There's a workflow for G3 and G8 here as well. And most important is the face key sequence. Okay, so what, when you import your character into iClone, it's going to import in with a bunch of morphs, and these are the numbers. Each one of these key numbers corresponds to a frame in your Daz project, and each one of these on the right corresponds to a specific expression or else a viseme shape. In this case down here, we have visemes for your, when you make ee, ooh, ah, like shapes with your mouth to do the lip syncing. Those are all viseme shapes right here. The other ones here are just for expression. So the first 60 frames are all just for expressions, very subtle expressions. And then we have some jaw movements here, and then the viseme shapes at the end, and then some eye stuff at the very end as well. Okay, so if you want to use this as a reference, feel free. I recommend it. But generally, if you want to just stick to the default stuff, go into Genesis 8 male right here. And you really don't need me. I'm kind of useless in this at this point here, because we have this notepad file where you can just double click on it, and it says how to use the Genesis 8 DUF file. And all you got to do is just basically, follow all this stuff here. Step 1, open this folder, okay? Now this is important, this first step here. Copy this folder, Reillusion, which is this folder right here, which I have my mouse over right now, okay, Reillusion. Copy it. Generally, if you install Daz to your default folder, it'll install to this folder right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this folder path. I'm going to right click it and copy it. I'm going to go over here to my Explore folder, and I'm just going to go ahead and press Control N to open a new window, Explore window, and I'm going to paste it in here, Control V, okay, in my path. I'm using Windows 8. I'm kind of old school, but it's very similar for Windows 10 as well. Okay, so then you'll have this directory structure here, and you'll have you won't have the Reillusion folder at first, but what you need to do is you need to copy this Reillusion folder into this path right here, and it'll have a subfolder called Facial Expression Data. And in here you'll have all those different DISON files which correspond to each one of the separate frames that I showed you earlier in that Excel file. Okay, so this is an important step. You need to make sure you do this first. Copy all this stuff to this particular folder structure, okay? Under Genesis 8, male morphs, and put the Reillusion folder right there. Okay, hopefully you got that. And then step 2 is basically because we need this morph data in Daz, and we convert the facial key. Okay, so step 2, drag the DUF file onto your character. Okay, that's really about all there is to it. Fairly simple stuff. Okay, again, this Reillusion folder, same thing in this folder right here. And there's our DISON file right there, the face key. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this down right now, and let's whip over into Daz. And let's just give ourselves a character here. I'm going to go to the content library. And, we have tutorial videos on this in our YouTube channel that kind of run through this process as well. So, you can always check those out on your own time as well. The process is basically the same as what I'm going through right now. Okay, So let's go to character people, characters, and I'm just going to throw in Edward 8. Okay, we have Edward 8 downloaded, and just double click and bring that bad boy in here. Okay, and what do I normally dress him with? Let's do some casual shoes from this D-Force casual pack. You can just search that in the Daz marketplace. You should be able to find it. If you have a question about where to find it, I can show you at the end. I'm going to throw this casual pants on there as well. And then this long coat outfit, I'm just going to throw in this long coat t-shirt right here. All right, this is just the basic stuff right here, okay? So, you know, this is fine. Everything's fine and good right here. Now, one thing I wanted to mention that we don't actually have in the videos is I'm going to talk about if you want to remove any of the mesh from your character. So any of the stuff, like for example, any of the skin that's hidden under the t-shirt right now, we don't necessarily need that for our character. You know, so what you can do is you can remove that mesh if you want. You can go over here to your scene and just, actually we need to go up here to tools and we need to go to, what is it, geometry editor, and let's select the Edward 8 here. Let's make the shirt invisible right now, just like this. So I'm just going to do like a really quick, crappy example, okay? And I'm just going to use the stupid things in the way here. I'm going to right-click here, geometry selection. Oh, let's use selection type. I like to use maybe or selection mode. Let's use marquee selection, okay? I'm just gonna basically click and drag on this part. So we're gonna just maybe take away his midsection. We're not saving tons of polygons, but we're saving a few polygons, okay? But if you have more time, you can go into more detail and remove more of your character's mesh, just to be a little bit less on the resources. So we'll right click here, geometry visibility, we'll go to hide selected polygons. You know, we could do the same thing for the, just gotta move my Zoom webinar window out of the way here, sorry. And we can do the same thing for the pants, and like remove the pants. And just, you know, click and drag down here, and, you know, yada yada. Hide all polygons. Oops, crap, wrong option there. Show all polygons, okay. Hide the selected polygons. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. And so we'll do the same thing for the chest there as well, since we did that before. There we go. Hide selected polygons. Make sure you get that right, and then you can throw your pants and shoes back, or pants and shirt back on. Okay, so we're just kind of lowered the poly count a little bit. You know, obviously you'd probably want to do a better job than I did at that, but that's the process right there. Okay, so we've got our character here. What we want to do now is just throw on the Dyson file onto our character's head. So we'll just zoom in right here, really close up on his face. And back to that Explorer window right here. Let's just bring it over like this. And click and drag the DUF file onto your character's head. Simple enough. It'll say, it'll extend your current timeline. Just press yes. Okay, and then after that, the first thing you want to do is you want to change your frames per second to a value of 1. Okay, and the reason you do this is because when you export, it'll take less time. We don't need 30 frames per second. Okay, we just need 1 frame per second. And then you can click and drag in your timeline, and you can see all the various blend shapes, morph targets, whatever you want to call them, on our character. Okay, so like I mentioned, frame 1 to frame 60 are like expressions, and then there's your jaw, and then these ones are the visine shapes over here. Okay, so up in the higher end of the timeline, you get the visine shapes like ooh, ee, ah, ooh. And down here, you get the smiley and different expressions. Okay, and that's really all there is to it. I think from that point, all you want to do is you just got to go ahead and export it. So File, Export. Okay, I want to get to other things, so I'm going to go through this process a little faster. We can call him, you know, Test Dude or whatever. Let's just call it, what's his name again? Edward. Edward Dude. Okay, I always have to put dude in my name. Okay, we'll just go ahead and save. Now, the next options here are very important. You want to make sure you select FBX 2011 binary, okay, since that's what we support right now. We may support different versions in the future, but I can't really say right now. All these options that I have over here, these selection options, those are okay. You want to make sure you go to edit morph export rules as well. And you want to add a rule 0. And for match, type in head with a period at the end. I'm not sure if you can see there's a little period at the end. Head all underscore, or head all lowercase letters rather, and then a period. And you want to ignore that action, okay? This is very important for when you are exporting your character. So you don't have morph issues when you export. Okay, and then just go ahead and accept that. Again, if you want to take a closer look at all those settings, you can review them on your own time. But what we can do now is probably by the time this finishes exporting, we can load up 3D Exchange. Okay, and we're going to bring into 3D Exchange. There's a couple of new features in 3D Exchange with the Daz Genesis 8 characters. And let's close down Reload and Hub there. Get out of here. All right. Cool. Okay, so is it exported? Okay, it may take a second here. Animation and all that stuff. But what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you the material profiles for Daz we have in 3D Exchange. There's also an auto T-pose and a brief look at the expression editor. We'll be done in like 2 seconds here. And after we do that, we're going to get into the batch material loading in iClone. So this is another cool new feature with iClone 7.2, the batch material loading. And we also have a special INI file that's specifically used for Daz characters when you bring your Daz characters into iClone. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and Edward Dude, there's our edwarddude.fbx. We can just bring him into 3D Exchange. Whoops, that's iClone. 3D Exchange. Let's just click and drag it in. All right, throw it in. Now, one important thing to notice here, we'll just press OK first. This is the general options there. One important thing to notice is that because we modified the number of polygons on the mesh, like we in fact deleted a bunch of them, what happens in that case is that 3D Exchange will come up with a prompt and say like, hey, we don't recognize this, but it's a Daz, which Daz character, which Daz model is it? This window right here. So it says profile is detected, but there's a vertex count mismatch, okay, because we deleted all that geometry underneath the shirt. So all you got to do here, no worries, just select your Genesis 8 male character, okay? And we did this because it's some of the Daz characters can be higher poly, and if you want to reduce the poly count for your character, you got to use that option there. So change to Daz Genesis 8 character. What we have here is the motion library is updated, blah, blah, blah. No worries, that just means all the morphs were imported into 3D Exchange. And then it says here, would you like to apply? So I believe someone in the chat window before the webinar asked about the eye issue. And this is where it's solved. It said, would you like to apply iClone optimized material settings to the body? Includes skin, eyes, lips, mouth, fingernails, and toenails. Okay, so basically this is just a material fix. Because previously, when you imported your characters, your Daz Genesis characters into iClone, or into 3D Exchange rather, they would have some material issues, and now you can see that the eyes are in fact nice, clear, and bold. Okay, we don't have the glossed over eyes. That was just an issue with the different eye materials that Daz has, a discrepancy between Daz and iClone. Okay. So that's the first new improvement with the newest version of 3D Exchange. The second new improvement is if we go ahead down here and maybe select, let's go to materials. Let's use this picker tool here, not dripper tool, picker tool, and select our character's face. All right, so see, we think in 3D Exchange, I don't know why you would really do this, but it's a feature anyways. In 3D Exchange, you would go here and you'd be like, oh, I want to change the specular color to, purple, and okay, and then decrease the opacity slightly, and change the diffuse color to green. Whatever kind of weird stuff you want to be up to with your Daz characters. Okay, kind of a cool transparent alien look. Not really, but anyways. So you screwed up, and I can't press Control Z enough times to undo all the stuff that I did, or I've made too many modifications. What you want to do here is you want to go up to this little option over here, and there's an option for load material profile for Daz Genesis. All right, so just click that, and it'll come to this folder here. It should come to this standard folder, and just select the item that you screwed up, in this case the face, and open. Bam, back to normal, okay? So it'll take all the settings back to normal, so you don't have to worry about doing all those modifications yourself. Another new improvement with the newest version of 3D Exchange is we now have the auto T-pose. So your character has been automatically set into the correct T-pose. You don't have to go into the convert to non-standard stuff. So previously you would have to go to this option here, convert to non-standard, and do a bunch of jazz in here and test all the T-poses, select your preset and all that stuff. You would have to go up here and select, Daz Genesis preset for the rigging and all that stuff. Thankfully, we don't have to do that right now, so we can just go ahead and cancel it. The T-poses are already harmonized. To test it out, we can just go ahead and import in any animation we want. We can give him like this male walk loop, okay, and just double click it to test it. All right, so you can see, perfect. He looks kind of glum. Anyways, good enough. That's just kind of demoing that the T-pose has been harmonized with iClone already. Okay, and the last thing to take a look at is the expression editor. So if you want to modify any of the expression profiles, you can go down here to Face Setup, Expression Editor, and just zoom in really close on his face. You can see your head orientation, up, down, left, right, tilt left. The eyes, okay, right word. Let's just make the bones invisible for now by clicking this Show Facial Bones, leftward, downward, and each individual eye, you can put them in different, whatever position, whatever you want, okay? And you can modify these if you really want to, but we have it preset, so you don't have to do all this stuff. There's the jaw, leftward, rightward, blah, blah. Viseme shapes, so these are the ones that I mentioned from frame, I think it was 65 to 80-ish or something like that. There's a O, okay, so these are all very, and you can go through the list of like tremendous amount of morphs here. I'm not sure if that's showing up on your screens since I'm scrubbing through pretty fast here, but there's all kinds of different blend shapes that you can modify right here. That one's probably not going to do much. But yeah, you can modify them on your own time, really. This one's for eyelashes. Which ones are the good ones here? Okay, so mouth open. Okay, so stuff like this. If you wanted your M to be more like a, you can put your lip up like that. But generally it's recommended just to keep the original settings that we have here. And then muscles, okay, so these are the muscles and all that stuff. And you can find the correct muscle one over here as well in the blend shapes. All these sliders. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I want to get into other things right now. So let's go ahead and close this down. And basically that's all there is to it in 3D Exchange. So from here, you can just go ahead and export your character to iClone, okay? And geometry, export geometry. We don't need to export the animation, okay? And we'll just take it to our default iClone content folder. You can also choose other and export it to something like your desktop, for example, but I'm just going to choose the default folder here and press OK. And it's going to export that into our iClone default folder. If it doesn't freeze in the process, which it shouldn't. I've done this a million times. And next thing we're going to talk about is the batch material loading in iClone. So a new feature in iClone. Let's close down 3D Exchange and go into iClone here. And let's find our character. You can find your custom character if you go up here to Actors and Custom tab, and under Character, what did we call him? Edward Dude or something, I believe. You can see my previous trial right here, Edward. But let's bring in Edward Dude. All right, let's just actually just double click him. You double click your character, it will add to your scene root, which is the middle of your scene. And you can press Control G to turn on your grid if you want, Control G or Control A to turn on your scene root, which is right here. We don't need any of that. Let's just take it all off. And there's our character, Edward, in iClone. Okay, so there's a couple things that we need to do to refine the textures, more specifically on the face. And I want to get through this as fast as possible because I'm losing time here. I want to do some lighting and stuff at the end. You can see it looks fairly good right now. Let's take a look at the character materials. So I'm going to go over here to the modify panel and open our materials tab right here. And you can see all the different material names for the various meshes on your Daz character. You can see down here, let's take a look at the face first, for example. Okay, we're going to do an example with the face. So you can see the face has a base color map, and it just has a default loaded metallic and roughness map. Now this is because the FBX export, the 2011 FBX export rather, does not allow for normal maps and all that stuff. So you have to actually do it manually, which is kind of unfortunate, but we may improve that in the future. But pay attention to this little link icon in the bottom left of our base color texture channel there. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I want to do first is I want to import in the metallic and roughness maps for my Daz character. And the way that I do that is I need to go over to Daz. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save a material hierarchy of folder structure basically for my Daz character. And I'd recommend if you have any, if you plan on making any material or texture modifications to your character in the future, I'd recommend saving out all your textures like this, because it's a really easy way to have everything in one place and update it later on. So you can go up here to load material, save material, but we're going to save all object textures right here. And when we do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop here, and let's create a new folder. Just keep things consistent. We'll call it Edward Dude, okay? And use that folder and select folder. So what it did there is it saved all the materials for our character into that folder structure. So let's find Edward Dude right here, okay? Oops, there we go. And go into this folder here, and you'll always have the name of your character with an __ root. That'll be your root folder in any structure. Doesn't matter what it's called. You'll always have whatever __ root. So go into that folder. There's another one called node. And under node, you'll find the specific mesh materials for each mesh, okay? So Daz Genesis 8 male, this is the materials for our character's body. So let's go into here, and we have stuff for the ears, the eyes, the mouth, the pupils. We need to find the face one right here. Okay, so face material. And you can see there, basically that's it. You know, and you're not gonna get the most visually appealing results if you only have these 3 basic maps. You wanna have something a bit more detailed. So what we need to do is we need to go into Daz, and we need to find our maps. I forgot to mention is like, go to posing, and you can pose all your character's head stuff here as well. Brow compression. That's a very small one. All right, there you go. Posing. You can pose in here as well, just like the expression editor. Okay. Anyways, what we're going to do is go to Surface now. Surfaces, and we're going to select Edward 8. Surfaces right here. And you can go down to the face. Where is the face at? There it is. Okay, and just click right here, for example, on that diffuse map and go to Browse. And it'll open all those texture maps for your character in Daz. Okay, you'll have the bump map and the specular map. Okay, and I'll talk about how to import those in later. So let's go ahead and just copy, right-click and copy this directory structure here. Cancel that, and let's just load up this folder here and paste it in here. Okay, so we have all of our textures right here. So the one we're looking for is the face, obviously. So there's 2 maps that we want to import in from the face. The first is the bump, and the second is the specular. And those can be found right here. We have Edward face 01 bump right here. B stands for bump map, okay? And then we have Edward face 01S. This stands for the specular map, which will translate into our roughness map a little bit later. So what I want to do is I want to click on both of these. I want to right click and copy them. And I want to copy them to that folder structure that I had before, this face material. Okay, so I'm going to press Control V and paste these in here. And what I want, the very important thing that is coming up next here, I want to rename these maps because we can't use the naming conventions in Daz. If we want to use this object texture load and save, we have to name it according to the iClone naming conventions. So it's important here that you do this. And what you want to do is if you're using a Daz character, notice that these three maps have face underscore underscore metallic, face underscore underscore roughness. If you're using a Daz character, you don't need to do that. You can just go ahead to this bump map, for example, and I'm going to just rename it to underscore underscore Daz, D-A-Z, and then bump, capital D, capital B. Okay? So once I have this file in this folder named this way, what I can do is I can load that same thing up in iClone. So let's go ahead and give it a load. I'm going to keep this metallic the way it is right now, okay? And we're going to talk about this in a moment. So before I saved all the object textures, now what I can do is I can load all object textures and choose that root folder, okay, and select folder. And what's going to happen now is with our face, you'll see that our face material, our face mesh, will have that additional bump map on it. So you can see how it's useful if you just go into like Explore, and you're going to come up with an issue like this. And the reason I did this is on purpose, because you'll see that it's the specular map with the S right there. The specular map is having the problem. Okay, so press OK. And let's go down here. You can see the bump map is loaded in, but our specular map is not, okay, in the roughness texture channel there. And the reason for that is because if we go to our face material right here, what happens is when iClone loads the material, the folder structure in, the first thing it'll look for is anything with the preface of face for this particular material. So face underscore underscore metallic, face underscore underscore roughness. It's looking for this, and when it finds it, it says okay. And it doesn't even look for this. It just says, hey, what the heck is this? This is an extra file. We don't need it. Okay, so what I need to do here is I'm going to change this file to underscore underscore Daz glossiness. Okay, like this. And the glossiness will actually take the place of the roughness map. If I had done this earlier, you would see the same result, okay? But I'm just gonna go ahead and take the roughness map and give her the old delete. And go in here and load it one more time. So again, load all object textures, same root folder, and press OK. And what's gonna happen now is you should not see that error message come up, and you'll see the glossiness map loaded in the roughness channel of our character's face. And okay, so no error right there, obviously, and we'll go down here. There's our roughness map right here, loaded in the correct texture channel. Okay, now one other thing that I wanted to mention here as well is we have the option, there's a Daz INI file that comes with the newest version of iClone that allows you, so say for example you load this in, but you're like, okay, it doesn't look that much different from what I had before, even without the roughness and the bump map. So, you know, what if I want to tweak these values? Well, you can go here to look at roughness, for example. Well, let's go to the bump map first, okay? So you can see the default bump strength is at 10. You're wondering why that is, and I'll show you in a moment. But we can manually take it up to like, you know, whatever value we like. Maybe 66 here is a bit too strong. Maybe we can go like 48 or even 40 or something like that. I think 40 is generally pretty good. I mean, the lighting here is not perfect, but we'll adjust the lighting a little bit later. I'll take it to 40 for the bump map. Okay, and a roughness. Now what you would do for roughness is you would go over here to adjust the color, okay? And if you adjust the color of roughness, you can go ahead and you can decrease the brightness of your roughness map. And if you decrease the brightness, you'll notice that there's a specular highlight on your character's face. I think I might have just, there we go. Okay, so you can see the specular highlight. It's a lot shinier. If we take that roughness up, you know, you won't see as much of a, so I'll load that. You won't see as much of a specular highlight. But generally what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down to like, you know, -30. And don't worry about this section on the head there. That's this back side of the head is controlled by the torso. I'm just demonstrating the face for now, okay? Okay, so say you wanted like a really kind of sweaty looking face like this, or you can do something like -20. Let's go to -20 just to keep it reasonable, okay? And then you can combine that, take your metallic texture channel there, and you can increase the brightness of your metallic. And once you do that, you can see the super, you know, specular highlights on that thing. Okay, but maybe like a value of +20 might be okay. I'm just really emphasizing the specular highlights here on the character's face. You know, it's the way they kind of dance over the normal map, and it really depends on, you know, what kind of effect you want to go. I'm going to use 20 for this example because our lighting, and momentarily our lighting is going to be different. Okay, obviously maybe this looks a little bit too greasy for this type of lighting, but anyways, okay, so it looks okay from over here, you know. But what you would want to do, say for example, you have a whole bunch of Daz characters and you want to import them in, and you're like, I don't want to go to every single character and adjust the roughness and adjust the metallic and just the bump. I want to have them import in with all the same values according to my project. So what you would do in that case, a little trickaroo here I'm about to show you, is go to your iClone application, just right click on it and go to open file location. Okay, and now I have mine in a separate drive. Yours might be in C program files or something like that. But just go into the main iClone folder here and go into the program folder, and under assets, under share, and what's the next one? Under share, texture import, I believe. Yeah, texture import, this folder here. There is a file here called material preset conversion, and it's made exclusively for Daz characters. So you can go ahead and load this in Notepad if you want. Right click, open with Notepad. And here you can see that we have some default import values. So the brightness value for the Daz glossiness is -18. Okay, so this means our roughness will be -18. So right now, the -18, it says -18 here, but it'll be equal to 0 in iClone. Okay, so all I'm saying is that from Daz, it changes that to 18 less points, and that's the default 0 value that you get in iClone. So, okay, what I did here in iClone is if we go back to our roughness map, I lowered it by 20. So 20 plus 18 would be -38. Say, for example, this is our ideal amount of roughness modification. So we add -20 on to that -18, and we get -38. So what we would do then is we would go here and change this value to -38 instead of -18. And then below that, you can see the bump strength. And you may remember that the bump strength by default loaded in at +10. What we can do here is we now load that in at +40, which is the value that I kind of liked. Okay? And then just go ahead and save this. And what's going to happen is, let's go ahead and take all these values back to normal. So let's go to 0 for the roughness. For the bump, we'll take the bump strength back down to 10. And the metallic, we'll take the metallic. Well, we can leave this at 20, it doesn't really matter. We'll take it to 0, okay, just to start from the beginning. So this is our original. And what we're going to do then is go ahead and load it in again. Load all object textures, same root folder, select folder. And what's going to happen now is you'll see the change. And those default values will load in according to the values that we put in that INI file that I just showed you. If this thing would hurry up a little bit. There you go. You notice like a very, very subtle difference. And the reason that's a very subtle difference is because we do not yet have a value for the metallic. So I do need to restore the metallic back to the original +20. And when we do that, there you'll see the value that we had before. Okay, so hopefully in the future we'll get that taken care of with the metallic as well. But yeah, that's the way you do it. And I think that's about it for the INI file. Now, linking textures is the last thing I want to talk about before I get into lighting here. So as it stands right here, obviously don't worry about the back part of the head there. You'd want to copy those values and paste them onto the head there. But we're going to focus on the face here. What did I want to do? Oh yeah, unlink the lips and the, so right now if I select the face, for example, okay, so the face material and the base color. So I go to the base color right here and I decide I want to change the base color map, to a different value for the entire face. So I can go ahead and use the adjust color, and I can, throw the hue a little bit and give them some purple skin if I want, something like this. And notice that the lips are, a little bit different. You can do all that stuff right there. But what I can do is I can select the face, for example. If I select the lips and I go down here, you'll see that it's not connected either. There's no share thing in the bottom left, or link icon there in the bottom left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select the face, and you can see it uses the same texture map as the lips. Okay, so face, lips, same right there. So if I select the face and I go down here, we have an option, I believe. We should have an option to link it all right here. So auto link all material textures. And when you do that, it's going to find all the other meshes that use that same material texture map, and it's going to link them all. So when you modify one, you're going to modify them all at the same time. And you'll see that little link icon appear in the bottom left. And I believe that should have taken our face too. Not sure what happened with the face, but maybe it's because I modified it too much. But you should have that option there as well. Now, if I go into the lips here and I adjust the color, we'll change the lips and the ears separately. Okay, so for some reason the face isn't working together with it right now, but I'm not sure why. But okay, so face and ears, obviously you don't want to like modify those two at the same level because it looks weird if you have purple ears and purple lips. So what you would want to do is you want to go ahead and unlink the lips from the other ones. So go ahead and select the lips right here and go down and just unlink that selected texture, okay? So you can unlink the selected texture, which is this one right here, or you can unlink all material textures, which would also unlink the metallic and roughness. Doesn't matter in this case, we can just unlink all material textures. And once that's done, we'll be able to modify the lips separately from the ears. All right, so the way we do that, here we go, hue. There you go, this guy is really avant-garde using banana yellow lipstick. Or whatever color you want, you know. Hopefully you're a bit more creative than I am, but we can maybe give a bit more color to his lips by taking down the brightness, increasing the contrast or whatever. Okay, so there's a little bit of lipstick on. Anyways, you can mess around with those values all you want. I just wanted to kind of show you how you can modify those separately from each other using the link and unlink feature. Okay, so again, there's the link texture and the link all material textures. Okay, and I think that's all the new features for 7.2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly set up some nice lighting in this scene. And there's a number of different aspects to lighting because I know a lot of Daz users really like really beautiful scenes. They like to perfect the scenes with perfect lighting and material settings and everything like that. So, I mean, we have a lot of the same features now in iClone, like global illumination, and we soon may have subsurface scattering, but we can talk about that later. But stuff like this. So, if I wanted to adjust the lighting, it looks fairly okay right now, but we can soften it up a little bit, I think. So generally the way you can soften up your lighting is you go into your visual tab here. Now there's HDR selected. I don't really like HDR too much. I like to do that as the last little finishing touch. So when I'm adjusting my lighting, I like to take HDR off, to be honest with you, and then bring it on later. The way I start is with IBL. So what I'm going to do is go to my scene manager here, and under lights, I'm going to just disable my key light and my rim light. And if we go to visual here, we can see at the very top, we have ambient light color, which is pure black, okay? You normally want to keep your ambient light color pure black. And down here, we have IBL. So currently, if we take our IBL down to 0, we have no lights in the scene at all. Only the sky, the background is lit up. Okay, we can increase our IBL to whatever value we want, image-based lighting, of course. And let's try something like, we can try different, these ones come default with iClone. So you can change like this King Street IBL, for example. This one's more like at the twilight hour, okay, something like this. I really like this one myself, but maybe something a bit warmer, like the Hall is what a lot of people tend to use, okay, like this. You can rotate your IBL however you want. I tend to keep my IBL fairly low. Maybe a value of 25 in this case would be okay. And there you go. We can get like a result like this. Again, pay no heed to the back of his head there. He's just a man of two different material worlds right now. All right, so there we go. I mean, it's a little bit shiny again. So if we wanted to, go ahead and refine that material, we can go over here with our metallic. Let's make sure we select the right face, not the lips. Okay, and our metallic, we can take that down. We can adjust our roughness, maybe to increased value. Okay, something like this, I think will do fine. All right, that's looking a bit better, maybe 10. And, but with our lighting that we're gonna bring in, we may need to change it back a little bit. But for now, I think this is okay for the lighting. So there you go. And you can, of course, rotate your IBL. There's an option down here. You can also use the Shift-I hotkey to rotate your IBL. You can sync your sky to your IBL, so we can make it visible. You'll have the IBL picture wrapped around in the background there. Okay, and if you want, you can rotate it just like this. All right, just like this. So now the bright part is kind of behind him. We probably want to take it something to almost directly in front of him like this. Okay, and then just deselect that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create an object. Let's create a camera first. Go to create camera. And we'll take a camera view, like maybe like a view like this. Okay, we're going to focus on his face, obviously. So right here, and then we can switch to our preview camera. Let's zoom out and let's create a block, primitive surface, create primitive shape rather, box. And we're going to use this as kind of like a light using global illumination or glow map. So I'm just going to scale this. I'm going to use the R hotkey to scale it small like that. I press the W hotkey. I can move it up like this and move it up like this. And I like to use the G hotkey. G will give you an overhead view if you use the G hotkey, just like this. And you can kind of place it into whatever position you want. You know, your traditional 3-point lighting will be something like this. You'll have it kind of from the left of the camera, maybe a little bit further down on him like that. And you'll see, you know, something like this. You can probably make it a little bit larger. This is going to be our soft main light, okay? So there's two ways that you can, you know, make this light visible or make this object here emit light. The first way you can do it is you go to materials and you can use self-illumination. So the first thing you need to do is I need to enable global illumination up here. So once I do that, nothing's going to change because we don't have any lights in our scene except for the IBL. Then we can go down here and we can increase the self-illumination of this object. When we do that, you can see a very subtle difference on his face. Let's actually change to our camera view. And let's use that same self-illumination like this. So you can see the result right there. It creates a much softer, balanced light on that very left-hand side, or the right side of his face, our left-hand side like that. And of course, we can increase that if we go down here. We can increase the global illumination scale like this, okay? This value right here. But I like using global illumination because it's just a more soft light than our directional lights. So something like this, you know, it'll create a much softer appearance. And if you change the diffuse color of that object to something a little bit softer, like a nice tan yellow, you'll see it'll create a nice, very soft yellowish light on our character's face, just like that, okay? So you can tweak that as much as you want. That's one way that I like to use. And the other way is you can actually load in a glow map on your object there as well. So we double click on the glow channel right here. One that I like to use that's kind of default with iClone is this kind of like party, kind of nighttime light one like this. You click on that. I like it because it's very warm. And I tend to like warmer lights myself. And if we take down their self-illumination, you'll see the default result right here. And I find that it adds a lot of saturation into the character's face. We can take the default diffuse back up to white there as well. And then your glow map here, you can adjust the strength of your glow like this, okay? And you can see the difference. It's much more saturated, much more natural looking when you increase that particular glow map. This is one I like to use all the time for different methods. And of course, you can adjust the color of that as well if you want, to the hue. Okay, so lighter or more greener, like this will be a very cold winter day type of lighting. And you know me, I like the warmer stuff, so the reddish yellow one for me is nice and fine. I can close that down. Okay, and then another thing you can do is just go ahead and go to your scene manager and load up like the rim light, for example. Let's activate our rim light here. You can see on the back. And if we press the / key, we can adjust the position of that rim light. Okay, like this. And to whatever position we'd like, something like that. There you go. I'm not going to get too much detail, but I think that looks okay. And that's all I'll do for lighting. If you want to learn more about the various lighting things that you can do in iClone, we'll talk about those in a moment. But I'm just going to throw on some hair to my character. I'm going to do a quick animation, and then we'll get to the Q&A. All right. So let's go to the Content Manager, over here to Actor Templates, and you'll find your accessories, which is where you can find most of your hair. I have this hottest hairstyles pack here. Hair right here. And I'll just throw on this central parted hair onto my character. Okay, and you see that maybe his head's a little bit big. His head's too big for his hair. So let's go ahead and go to Preview Camera. And there's various ways you can adjust this. Use the R hotkey to scale it a bit larger. And the W hotkey to move it slightly forward like this. And R, again, we'll just kind of stretch it out a little bit. I'm going to check from all angles to make sure it's being covered. Okay, and then W, bring maybe a little bit further down like this. And I think it needs to be further, stretched a little bit further back. Okay, so you can adjust all this stuff on your own time, but I think that looks good. All right, and maybe the bump is a little bit too strong on the character's face. So if I go to Materials, you can also use the B hotkey, by the way, to use Pick Material and pick the face. Very useful. The bump map, take it down a little bit, just to kind of bring it down a slight bit, maybe to 20 or something like that. It was a little bit too rough for my taste before. Okay, and then one thing that you may want to do, I probably should have adjusted the hair before I did the lighting. And then again, if you want, you can go to your scene and select the box here. And I can adjust the value of that glow. Okay. I don't want to have too much lighting on the hair. Something like that. And let's see our rim light. That's not going to have too much of an effect on the hair. All right, but that's okay. And then you can get all sorts of like reflective stuff on your light as well. I think for this box, you can probably take down the level of illumination there. Just like that. I want it to look as natural as possible. And then of course, visually, you can go into your visual tab and there's shadows as well. I like to have strong shadows myself, to be honest with you. I don't know, I just kind of like strong shadows. So you can increase the global darkness multiplier here and our scene here. Let's see. Yeah, we can also enable our key light like this as well if we want. But I think we'll just go ahead and work with this for now. And our visuals here. And let me just go ahead and check this light here, this box. All right, we're just going to leave it like that anyways. I'm not sure what the issue is with the shadows there, but just double check this here. Okay. All right. So we can, adjust the shadows like this way a little bit, to kind of complete the whole thing. Let's throw in that key light a little bit. Just a very a very slight bit. And we need, of course, to let's bring it right over here. Something like this. Okay, so you can use, generally you don't want to use like global illumination all by itself, especially with a glow map or something like that. You probably want to, adjust them all together like this. So use the key light and the rim light in combination with that global illumination, and you get a nice, much more realistic result like this. And like myself, I like to have like very high contrast, mysterious shadows like this, but a lot of people don't like that, so you can, take it down to lower value like 90. And go into the visual tab for the shadows. You can adjust the bias as well, generally to like 0, and you get much more accurate shadows with the bias like that. Okay, so you can see the hair casting a shadow and everything like that. And there you go. And then at this point, we can do some quick animation, like go to our, select our character, go over here to animation and face puppet. And then what you can do with the face puppet, I'm pretty sure you're all familiar, do all the funky faces, right? And it's really easy just to animate using your mouse movements just like this. You can adjust whatever, oops. You can use the QWERT hotkeys to cycle through these facial expressions. Okay, so it's like sad, this one's happy, and then Y, this one's surprised. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and record something like a smiley face and say, actually no, we'll just go ahead and I'm gonna throw in my own voice here first to show you how easy it is. So select our character, go to create script, record voice, and go ahead and record. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our Genesis 8 to iClone webinar. You're the best. Okay, press OK. And hey everyone, thanks for watching our Genesis 8 to iClone webinar. All right, didn't get the best capture on the voice there, but if you want to redo it, you can press F3 and go into your timeline. I think my microphone may be a bit low here. Hopefully you guys can hear me. You may have had to turn your volume up, so I apologize for that. I realized my microphone level might have been pretty low. Let's go to Edward and select his expression track right here in Visine tracks. And it'll come in your Visine track there, so you can just delete that and get rid of your animation. And it'll just, throw in some face puppet. Just a quick animation, this angry one. Okay, so I'm going to record this. And you can see the physics on the hair in action there as well. All right, and I think that's about all I'm going to cover in this webinar, guys. Just wanted to do a little bit of quick animation at the end there, and show you how this stuff works. Next time I'll increase the volume of my microphone. But yeah, so we're going to get to the Q&A session. We already have a bunch of questions, as I can see here. So I'm going to get to that Q&A session right now, and let's get at her. A little too close up for your face, buddy. There we go. And okay, so Q&A time. Okay, so Bill asked the question, if you have time, can you cover adjusting collision shapes? Collision shapes are, oh man, Bill, they take quite a while in a lot of cases to adjust. For those of you who aren't aware, collision shapes are the shapes, the meshes kind of in your character that you use for physics, for collision, like soft cloth and all that stuff like that. I think that we're going to be having a tutorial on that in the near future there, Bill, but collision shapes can take a while. So maybe you can email me separately, and I can troubleshoot with you that way, because one by one during a webinar it'll take a few minutes at least for collision shapes to refine it and modify it. All right, so sorry for that, Bill. You can email me, Bill, at kai@realization.com. My email is @reallusion.com, and I'll put that in the chat window as well. So for those of you who can't hear my muffled voice, kai@reallusion.com. All right. And please put your questions in the Q&A window, not the chat window. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Can I use, Sam Schneider asks, can I use the models from Daz to iClone to UE4 for a project, Unreal Engine 4? Yeah, definitely. I've actually done that myself in the past. I've taken Daz models into my iClone project, and hence after that into UE4 after a couple of modifications. So it's definitely doable. You can do it, I think we even have tutorials. We have tutorials on how to do that, but they don't use Daz characters. But it's basically the same process. Okay, so someone using a Galaxy Note 4 says, when I create my character on Daz, especially when I put hair on my character and export that, iClone software makes a lot of lags because of the number of polygons is too high. Yeah, so Daz characters, they're not really, super low polygon. They're not really originally intended for real-time animation, but we're trying to do the best we can. The process I showed you earlier about removing the geometry that you don't need under the clothing and everything like that is very useful. That'll decrease the lag significantly. If I press, I think it's Control F, you can see the memory on the top left there. So this character has 88,000 polygons. Okay. You can probably reduce that quite a bit, maybe even to 40 or 50 if you are more accurate with your mesh removal, like I was not. That's one way that I would suggest going about that. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question for you there. That's all I can really say at this point. Vincent asks, is this the same for G3 characters? G3 characters are Crazy Talk animator characters. Oh, no, sorry, G3, you mean Genesis 3 characters. Hey, gotta get some different names for these things. Genesis 3 characters. Vincent, the process is similar, but like I mentioned earlier, in that same folder, you'll find that Excel file, and there's a slightly different process for Daz Genesis 3 characters, and you can just follow that in this little tab here, Workflow G3 and G8. It's basically the same. Just make sure you follow this, okay? I think it's essentially the same, but for 3D Exchange, you just have to choose Daz Genesis 3 instead of Daz Genesis 8. I don't think there's any other difference as far as I know. All right, so hopefully that answers your question there. Tom asks, I want to export or import characters with more detail resolution, like aliens or demons, while still using the DISON file to keep the vising. However, Daz limits FBX to 34K faces, and other formats like OBJ do 136K faces. How can we export in a different format to keep the resolution and still get the bones, vising, etc.? I've never had an issue like you mentioning here with a limit on geometry export, like 34,000 faces. I've never really had that issue myself, Tom. If you've had that issue, I'm not sure why, but that might be something to bring up with Daz. But myself, I've never had that issue. I can't really do the technical troubleshooting for Daz myself. I don't actually even really use Daz a whole lot myself. I'm more of an Unreal and Unity guy. But yeah, I can't really give you a solid answer on that, Tom. Apologies for that. But maybe try and email me with more details on your situation there, and I'll try and help you if I can. Okay. But for now, I think I can't really get into that kind of troubleshooting. Okay, so Wallace asks, how about the eyes? I think we just kind of fixed the eyes. If you have a specific question about the eyes, Wallace, let me know. I'm not sure what you mean exactly by the eyes. Daz characters have, different eye structure. So what's reflecting off the eyes right now is the IBL in the background there. Okay. If you want to add any sort of reflection to the eyes, you can do so technically you can do so. Maybe select like the cornea, for example. You can see there's nothing on the cornea, but you can throw stuff on there. Which one is it that uses? Iris, maybe? Or sclera, I think. I always get messed up with the, yeah, sclera right here. So you can use the sclera. You can adjust the color if you want. Yeah, that's the white part. Oops, my bad. I'm not an optometrist, okay? Give me a break here. Let's bring that back down to 0. But I should definitely know these Daz eye things. The irises. Yeah, we can adjust the iris color if we want, for sure. I'm not sure what happens if you adjust the reflection on the irises here. If you select reflection, it is taking a while to load, but yeah, you're not going to see much of a difference there. I think I'm using the wrong one, but yeah, I think the eyes are the way they are right now. There's a way to decrease the opacity, like this. Okay, you can adjust the color of the irises, like that. Okay, so purple, green, maybe add a bit more brightness in there, more contrast. You get some really cool, funky looking eyes. All right, but yeah, I'm not sure what the eye issue you mean is, but there's various meshes for the eyes that you have to modify separately. Okay, Sam says Edward dude looks kind of like Willem Dafoe. Oh, does he? Yeah, kind of like a younger, maybe more handsome Willem Dafoe. Not saying that Willem Dafoe is ugly, but he's a little bit older than this dude. Maybe it's Willem Dafoe's long lost son. What did he play in Spider-Man? The Green Goblin, the Hobgoblin. This is what he probably would have looked like. More like James Franco. Anyways, Kenneth Barnes asks, can you import Daz hair to already on the character? This is a good question from Kenneth, and for a lot of people, they ask about importing Daz hair onto your character. Now, like I mentioned before, the Daz character, there's stuff like the hair. It's not really intended to be used in a real-time animation environment. It's fairly high poly and fairly detailed. So I do not at this point recommend using Daz hair on your iClone characters. We do have a lot of different hair packs that you can purchase, and we do have some people that are actually making their own hair in the marketplace and the content store now. So I'd recommend checking out the contents or the marketplace. Let's see if we can find something real quick here. Yeah, just gotta get rid of all these pages. I don't know, type in hair. Let's see if this brings up anything. Apologies if it brings up crappy stuff, but okay, so there's some hair stuff. Maybe if I just type in CC2 hair. So there's a bunch of hairs you can throw in here. CC hair, maybe. I know there's some people who've been doing some really cool hair stuff recently. And as you can see, we're not Google. CC stands for character creator, unless you're not aware. Okay, yeah, we're not Google. We don't, but you should be able to find some reasonable stuff, maybe under this one here. I do know for a fact that I've seen some marketplace stuff. Okay, so here's some Realusion hair you can purchase. And of course, all physics enabled. This one right here, this Pixtim one right here, he's got a lot of cool looking, like different stylized hair, and they're compatible with character creator characters. All right, Tokamotion has a bunch as well. So these specific hair that can be used for character creator characters. You can see it says CC 2.3 or above, CC 2.0 or above, okay? So lots of different styles. And, apologies to, we do not have a lot of hairstyles for our African-American friends at this point. We do have some in the Realusion content store, but not a lot. And I think we should have more, but that's something for the future. But hopefully that answers your question there, Kenneth, about importing the Daz hair. Edward asks, can you feed real-time text with these animations? No, but you can do something better. If you have the Faceware mocap plugin, you can just do your own lip movement. And you can capture the facial animation in real time. For those of you who are not aware, FaceWare is a real-time facial motion capture solution for iClone. If you want to find it, you can go to our main page here. Highly recommended. If you want to get involved in any sort of animation, I'd highly recommend checking this out. Go up here to iClone, and in iClone you'll find add-ons and plugins. And under add-ons and plugins, you will find Motion Live. This is our new all-in-one motion capture plugin. Highly recommended, and FaceWare is used for the facial animation stuff. You can see here in this video, he's doing facial and body at the same time, okay? Very, very useful and highly recommended. It's not extremely cheap, but well worth it if you're going to be serious about doing animation in the future. I recommend it. All right, so hopefully that answers your question there, Edward. Law asks, did you just use 3D Exchange Pro, not Pipeline? Why would you need Pipeline as opposed to Pro? So the difference between Pro and Pipeline is basically 3D Exchange Pro allows you to import anything into iClone. Okay, so you can import props, characters, whatever into iClone. However, the only benefit, well, Pipeline, there's a lot of benefits, but Pipeline allows you to export from 3D Exchange into FBX, into OBJ, into Alembic, all this other stuff. Okay, so once you have 3D Exchange Pipeline, you can export to any other software you want. Unfortunately, if you want the Daz Genesis extension, it's included in the Pipeline version, not the Pro version. Okay, talk to the other people about that, but that's just the way it is at this point. Okay, but Pipeline, you can import anything with the Pipeline, but you can't. It won't include the Genesis extension. If you were fortunate enough to grab one of the earlier versions of the Genesis extension, like version 2 or 3, it doesn't work with G8 characters, but it does work with G3 characters. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question there. Edward asks again, can the character speak with spontaneous messages? I think I kind of answered that with the only with the motion capture at this point. Okay. Text-to-speech script, TTS or text-to-speech script, you can do that, but again, it's not going to be live. You have to import it in manually using the process, well, that I kind of showed you using my voice, but using the text-to-speech instead. Bernard asked a question about iRay implementation. iRay, it's in the works. I can't give any more hints on when that will be, but iRay is definitely in the future for us. We're releasing Character Creator 3 in the near future as well. I can't exactly say when, but I can tell you that we're working on iRay and Character Creator 3 very hard right now. Okay, so Kevin asks, what characters work best coming from Daz, and is it better to import without clothing? Well, this also gets into Character Creator 3 a little bit, where we'll have the ability to apply any sort of clothing, any sort of iClone clothing onto Daz characters, which is a huge, huge thing. And I've been messing around with that myself. But, you know, it's not, I mean, the clothing in Daz isn't too high poly, so importing the Daz clothing isn't normally an issue. It's just that the geometry of the actual character might be a little bit higher. But again, we'll have a universal kind of method of bringing it all in to apply to your Daz character from iClone anyways. I can't really talk much more about that. I know it's a very exciting point for a lot of people, but just know that we're trying our best to make it iClone as compatible as possible. Rivers asks, can Daz models wear iClone Character Creator clothing now? Not right now, but in the future that's coming up. I can't really say when, but it's coming in the future. Law asks another question. What's the minimal graphics card you would suggest? Honestly, the current graphics card I'm using, it's pretty old. I think it's like a GTX 1060 or something. But it's done me well. I've had it for like 2 years. You know, and then they had that whole Bitcoin cryptocurrency craze where the price of you know, video cards like doubled or tripled, which is pretty crappy. But I think they're coming down a bit more now. Obviously you want the best video card possible, but the whole demo I just showed you guys, I use the 1060, GTX 1060, and you can get that for pretty cheap these days. That's the minimum I would suggest, though. If you don't want to be waiting around or lagging and stuff like that. Kevin asks another question: is the version of 3D Exchange you demonstrated tonight 7.22? Yes, it is. If you haven't updated, I strongly encourage you to update to 7.22. You can go up to iClone help and check for update. Okay, and I have the latest version. And if you don't, download it. For Pete's sake, don't get on. Don't use the old version. All right. Okay, so Moyo Sore Oguntoye, sorry if I butchered that name, but pretty cool name, asks, I'm still quite new to Reallusion software. I also have 3D Exchange and Character Creator. Do you think it's not too early for me to get Daz? Well, I mean, Daz Studio is a free download. Why not, right? And if it is not, how can I get one for my learning stage? Well, Daz Studio is a free download, Moyo Sore. So, pick it up. I think the learning curve isn't too high for Daz myself, compared to stuff like Max or Maya or Cinema 4D. It's maybe a bit more to learn than iClone, but not that much. It's fairly simple, and it's used by, for kind of different things than iClone is as well. iClone definitely has the advantage in animation, and Daz, traditionally had the advantage in creating beautiful still scenes and stuff like that. But I would pick it up, just download it and get familiar with it. And Jason asks, what specs are you running on your machine? Well, like I said, it's the 1060 GTX. Oh gosh, I don't even remember my specs. I've had this computer since the dinosaurs roamed the earth, but it's done really well for me, to be honest. Whoops, what am I doing here? Gosh, what are you going to these days? Oh, you have to go to my computer, right? I don't know. I can just tell you that it's it's not the best. I'm pretty sure. I think I just have a 1060 GTX is all I remember. I even forget how to get into the specs of my computer. I don't want to go into all that stuff during this webinar though, so I can figure that out later. Okay, so unfortunately, Kenneth couldn't hear me for a while there. So hopefully you can hear me now. And I know that my mic volume might have been a bit low. I'm trying to talk as directly into the mic as possible. Sometimes my mouth will just turn like this and I'm talking into a different direction. But yeah, I'm still here, and I'll try and talk into the mic as much as possible. Gary talks about Decimator for Daz Studio. I'm not sure about a Decimator for Daz Studio. We have to talk to Daz people about that. But yeah, I don't have much experience with that, unfortunately. So I can't give you any really good tips on that, Gary. You can probably email me, and if we have anything in the pipeline for our development team, I'll let you know about that. Okay, thanks, Sam. Ken asks, could Reallusion add profile support for HiveWire 3D figures like Dawn and Dusk? Well, Ken, I'm actually currently personally working with HiveWire 3D figures, Dawn specifically, and we are going to be having some tutorials launching alongside Character Creator, which will feature Dawn, and more specifically, the import of clothing onto Dawn and the customization of the clothing. We'll be able to import the clothing and actually adjust the geometry of the clothing. So you can import like a bikini, for example, with your Dawn character, and in Character Creator you'll be able to adjust the geometry of that bikini or whatever to optimize the real-time performance. So pretty exciting stuff. You just have to wait about a month or so before we get those tutorials out. So Pavel asks, I use an NVIDIA card display and 3D Exchange pipeline crashes. It doesn't crash with generic display. What setup do you use that your 3D Exchange pipeline doesn't crash when you use an NVIDIA card? Well, Pavel, it really depends on which NVIDIA card you're using. With this question, I would refer it to our customer support team. They do a lot of the technical troubleshooting. If you guys ever find issues like that where you're having crashes or anything, I'd love to help, but I can't really do the technical troubleshooting myself. But go to our customer support team. If you go to our main page, you can go up here and find them. Get this out of the way here. Support right here, and just customer service. And log in, submit a question, and that's the best way to get your stuff answered. Within 24 to 48 hours, they'll answer all inquiries. All right. Okay, so Wallace asks, can I change the eyes? Can you change the eyes? I don't know. At this point, I don't think so. I think that's coming up with the Character Creator 3, though. But I haven't had anyone ask that question before, and I haven't had anyone mention it. So I can't confirm that, Wallace, but I think that we should be able to. Don't take my word for it, though. I'm pretty sketchy on the details right now, but email me later, and I can maybe look into it in more detail. Okay. Can we hire Kai to develop characters for our next movie? We're starting our 8th show on Amazon Prime. Myself, I'm kind of busy. If you guys want to hire, character developers or animators, I do have a Rolodex. For those of us who are dinosaurs like me, we use Rolodexes. I do have a Rolodex of artists and animators that I can definitely refer you to. Skilled in all sorts of different software. I'm currently a bit busy myself, but I can definitely refer you to some highly recommended artists and animators, Dwayne, if you're interested. And I may even throw my hat in there, once in a while, take on freelance projects. But currently, it's a bit of a busier season for me. Cameron asks, is it possible to edit Daz hair to lower the poly count and use it in iClone? Yeah, you can definitely, if you export the Daz hair into something like Blender, for example, you can lower the poly count using that. I've never used the Daz decimator, which another user just previously mentioned, but I know how to minimize poly count in stuff like Maya, and I've done it in Blender. But yeah, you can definitely do that. And what you do is you minimize the poly count, you import it in as a prop, and then you attach it to your character, and then you can save it as an accessory. Once you attach it to your character, you can save it as a separate accessory. Okay, thank you, Kenneth. Rodolfo asks, is the workflow for Victoria 7 similar to the one explained in this webinar? I believe so. It should be the same, as far as I know. But I don't think this is exclusively for Genesis characters, and I've never actually done it with Victoria 7. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I can't really answer that. Maybe someone else has tried that. I've never tried it with Victoria 7, but I'm not sure if that Genesis DUF file, I don't believe it'll work with Victoria. You'll have to maybe do it manually. Or one of our previous versions might have it. I forget. Oh, it's been too long. Sorry about that, Rodolfo. Maybe email me, kai@relusion.com, and I can experiment by myself when I have more time instead of during the webinar. Okay, so Kenneth asks, what are the best rendering software to do the incredible type results or Tomb Raider type results? Best rendering software right now, iRay, I would say is leader of the pack. You definitely have the most benefits using iRay, and we're getting on board with that real soon. The highest details. I mean, iClone, we do have our render options here. But we're working together, we're working towards iRay right now. Let's see here. News about Character Creator 3. Everybody wants news about Character Creator 3. It's coming, all right. Get off my back. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Character Creator 3, looking for a release really soon. But of course, we want to make it as good as possible before we release it. We don't want to release with all kinds of bugs and stuff. And there's a lot of bugs right now, so working through it. Okay, so yeah, Gary Simonelli just mentions that Decimator for Daz will lower the poly count for the Daz characters before export. Now, I have never gone through that process actually of using the Decimator to lower the poly count and then trying to export it into iClone. But that is something that might be interesting to try, because I've heard mixed reviews on the Decimator myself, but I've never actually tried it. So maybe one of you can try using the Decimator for your Daz character and then importing it in with the same process that I just showed you. I think it should still recognize it as a Genesis 3 or Genesis 8 character when you import it into 3D Exchange. But I haven't tried it myself. So maybe one of you guys can try it if you have the Daz Decimator, which I don't have actually. But yeah, give it a shot. Maybe let me know. That'd be really interesting information to have. Robert asks, I have problems with Daz clothing and soft cloth settings. Any tips on that? Oh man, like I gotta tell you, the soft cloth stuff is one of the most frustrating things for me. It takes a lot of trial and error, and I get questions about the soft cloth physics all the time, and there's no real 100% accurate answer for individual pieces of clothing. You really have to tweak your values according to each item of clothing, each character's body proportions. It's just a lot of details, and I have really no quick answer for you. There's no shortcuts when it comes to soft cloth. You have to really tweak it. That's one of the more difficult problems that I've come across, with animation, whether it be Daz clothing or our clothing. I mean, our artists, they spent like hours and hours on end, even tweaking our stuff for the soft cloth. So no quick tips that I can give you, but we do have tutorials that go through the process. So apologies for that, Robert. Kenneth asks, Poser and iClone 7 importing. As long as you can export to FBX, you should be able to import into iClone 7. Now with the Poser characters, it'll be a different rig. So you'll probably have to do it manually. We only have this automatic stuff because Daz Genesis characters are the most popular Daz type of characters. So we've made this pipeline, but for Poser characters, some rigs may be a little bit different depending on the generation, of course, and you may have to manually characterize them. It doesn't take that long. It takes maybe like 5-10 minutes, but yeah, you'll have to do it manually. Okay, so Edward asks, can you give me your email? I typed the email in the chat window. For those of you who are not aware, we're in the chat window here. Yeah, so it's somewhere in the chat window, kai@relusion.com. I typed it at about 6 o'clock there. All right, for Edward. So Ferris asks, so you guys are running with iRay. Indigo is Indigo History now. So Indigo is our other render plugin. It's not history. It's still useful for a lot of things like super highly accurate. Indigo I found is really good for like highly accurate refraction, like semi-transparent stuff like glasses and vases and water. Indigo is really good with that stuff. It takes a bit longer. I wouldn't say it's history, but people use it for different things. Indigo is more focused on realistic refraction of light in architecture and stuff like that, I think. But it definitely has use for some people. Kenneth asks, I'm getting a new laptop at the end of the year. What would be a cheap laptop for the Relusion products? Just make sure you have at least a 1060 GTX. That's what I'm using. That's what I always tell people. You know, I've had this thing for a couple of years, since like 2016 now, and it's done me well. I gotta say, I'm using an MSI laptop, by the way. Highly recommended brand. I don't work for MSI, but I do like their laptops. All right. Final question from Sam. Can I use Daz in UE4 to sell like on Steam or GOG? Here's a little tip for you, Sam. Daz characters, they're copyrighted, just like a lot of our characters. So if you try and take a Daz character and sell it on other marketplaces, um, even if you just modified it slightly, it's not going to be particularly legal, as far as I know, according to their end user license agreement. Yeah, I'd be very wary of that, to be honest, because you know, as far as our stuff, like we had our stuff being sold, like people just took like the character creator rig and you know threw a different color on the character and decided to sell it in other marketplaces, and we're like, hey, not cool, dude. You know, like you know, you're stealing someone else's work and you know selling it on whatever marketplace. I mean, I understand people will you know use work as inspiration and stuff, but yeah, at least put some work of your own into it, modifications and stuff. And but generally, I think that Daz and ourselves don't like people using the original rigs without significant modifications and trying to sell them somewhere else. All right. Okay, I think we're good to go. Some people putting some computer specs in the Q&A section there. But I think we're going to end off the webinar since we're about half an hour overtime already. I think the Q&A session almost lasted as long as the actual webinar itself. But yeah, okay, I think we're good. As a reminder, as always, make sure that you fill out that survey in the email that you're going to get, and we'll give you the 10% discount for the content store. As always, we're recording this, and we'll send you a YouTube link that you can review on your own time. And yeah, I think that should do it. So hopefully you guys learned a lot in this webinar. Thanks for attending, and thanks for all the questions. And you know, feel free to let us know any other future topics that you want for future webinars. And if you're watching soccer tomorrow, go England. I might get a lot of flack for that. Let's go. All right. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later, and hope to see you in the next webinar.